Hey guys, I wanted to give you a few tips on how to talk to your kids about strangers. The first thing that I would suggest doing is reading this book. It's The Berenstain Bears Learn About Strangers, and it's a really sweet book. And like the Berenstain Bears do, they explain it in a really great way. Mama and sister are cutting up apples, and sister finds a lumpy apple and says, oh, for sure, this is a bad apple. But mama cuts it open and it's fine. And then she shows her a nice, perfect red apple and cuts into it, and it's all wormy inside. So I thought that was a great little object lesson in here about how to talk to your kids about, people don't have to look mean and scary on the outside to be that way. And then there's a list of brother and sister bears rules for cubs at the end. So that's what I read to my children, and that just kind of eases them into it. I will say I don't try and be like a complete maniac about this. I mean, I don't try and go overboard and freak them out or get freaked out myself, but it's definitely something that I think you should talk to your kids about, and so that's why I'm posting this video. So sometimes it can be a little overwhelming, so I just went online and I kind of looked at some different websites and what they suggested talking to your kids about, and then I just pulled the bullet points that I thought were what I wanted to talk to my kids about. I was talking to my 6- and 8-year-old about this, so I thought I would just share that that's the age range that I was talking to. So the first thing that I talked to them about after reading the book, number one, I talked to them about tricky people, and tricky people is kind of the new word. Instead of stranger danger, it's kind of the new catchphrase, tricky people, and that they don't have to look scary, and based off of the book, and that they are someone who means you harm and not good. So, a lot of times we think it's like the guy in the trench coat at the park with candy in his pockets or something like that. Sometimes it can be someone your kid knows that means them harm, and so I like the term tricky people just for that. But the most, that would go into more of a talk about maybe your body and personal space and all that kind of thing, and who needs to be touching you where and that kind of thing. I did not go into that in this conversation. That's going to be a different one. But this was just kind of like when they're at the park or if they get separated from us, what to do. So that was the first thing. And then number two, if you are ever somewhere like grocery store, park, whatever, and you get separated from us somehow, I said, it's okay to talk to a stranger if it's a mom with her kids. So I really tried to enforce that and get that in their brain that you can talk to a stranger. They see me talking to strangers at the park. So I didn't want them to be confused by that, but I said, if you're alone, you only talk to a mom with their kids. And hopefully they'll never be in a situation where there's not a mom with kids around. And I even put that ahead of like if they're at the grocery store, if it's somebody who's working there, because honestly, sometimes I get confused by who's working there and who's not. So, they might go up to some random person who doesn't actually work there. So I put that ahead of that. And also I would mention that I said, never ever leave a store, even if somebody says, hey, hopefully not a mom would do this, but if someone like at the store says, hey, we'll go outside and look for their mom, never leave the store. Never, never, never leave the store, no matter who it's with, unless it's your mom and dad. And then, so number three, I said, if someone comes up to you with a dog or candy or something that you really love, I actually started it out by saying, if you had a big box with pretty wrapping paper right in front of you, what do you wish it would be? And of course the answers varied, but I said, what if somebody came up to you at the park with that? Whatever it was, like a puppy. I don't know if you guys have seen the social experiment that this guy does with the puppy, but it is kind of jaw-dropping. So I'll link that below if I can find the link. So I kind of prefaced it by having them think about something maybe outside of candy or, whatever the stereotypical thing is for strangers to give you. And then I said for my 8-year-old, I was like, if you don't feel comfortable, even my 6-year-old, I said, if you don't feel comfortable, if you trust your gut, and if you don't feel comfortable in this situation, you can leave and you can feel free to say no to that adult. I said, if you don't feel comfortable with what they're asking, if they've asked for your help, I said, for sure, always come and ask your mom first. So that was what I kind of talked to them about, just trusting their gut instinct. And, with a little bit older kids, you can do that. The fifth thing was review your full name, like parents' full names with your kids, and also your address and telephone number. That's a big one, because if they do get separated, they need to know who they belong to and where they live and how to get a hold of them. And then the last thing I will mention is not something we've implemented, but it's a family code word. So in case, your kids are somewhere and you've asked someone else to go pick them up and your kids don't know that or whatever. And, if your kids are more cautious, I think it would be great to have a family code word. Or, let's just throw this out there that if some stranger comes up to them and says, hey, your mom's in the hospital, I'm going to take you to her. If they say, well, what's the family code word? And if they don't know it, then that's just a random scenario that I thought I'd throw out there. So anyways, we have not implemented the family code word, but I wanted to include it just in case any of you thought it was a good idea. So those are some of the things that I've talked to my kids about, and I thought I would share them because sometimes it can get a little overwhelming, or you just don't really think about laying it out and explaining it to your kids in such a way that you really have a good conversation about it and they can ask questions and and really get a firm understanding of what they should and shouldn't do in certain situations. So I hope you guys found this helpful, and I will see you later.